Hey everyone, and welcome to a special study session all about one of the coolest topics in biology, control and coordination. We're going to break down everything from why you react so fast to how a simple plant knows which way the sun is. This is all designed to get you prepped and ready for your exams. So let's dive right in.
All right, let's kick things off with a little thought experiment. Picture this. You accidentally touch a super hot pan. What happens? You probably rip your hand back instantly, right? But think about it. The actual feeling of pain, that ow moment, that comes a split second later. How is that even possible? Well, it's not magic, I promise. It's your body's incredible control system working faster than you can think.
So, at the very heart of it, being alive means reacting to what's happening around you. Every single living thing, from a tiny seed to a huge elephant, has to respond to changes in its environment if it wants to survive. And these responses are never random. They are always carefully controlled.
I mean, just think about a cat chasing a mouse. That's a very deliberate, conscious decision to hunt for food. Now compare that to a plant in your window, slowly bending towards the sunlight. They seem totally different, but they're both using an internal system of control and coordination to make exactly the right move.
Okay, so when it comes to animals, how do we manage these super fast reactions? Well, the secret weapon is the nervous system. You can think of it like your body's own private, high-speed internet, using special cells to shoot messages around in the blink of an eye. Let's take a closer look at how it's all built.
And the hero of this whole system is the nerve cell, which we call a neuron. Getting a message through one is basically a three-step journey. First, information gets picked up by these branchy bits called dendrites. Then, that info gets converted into an electrical impulse that literally zips down a long wire called the axon. And finally, it reaches the end and has to make a leap over to the next neuron in line.
Now that final leap, that happens at a super important place called the synapse. And here's the thing you have to remember. That electrical signal can't just jump across the gap. So instead, it triggers the release of tiny chemicals. These chemicals float across the gap and kickstart a brand new electrical signal in the next cell. So it goes from electrical to chemical and back to electrical. Seriously, highlight this word in your notes, synapse. It comes up on exams all the time.
All right, so remember that hot pan question from the beginning? The secret is something called a reflex action. This is your body's emergency response system. It's like a secret shortcut that completely bypasses the brain to save precious time. It's all about speed. And you can really see the difference here. A voluntary action, like choosing to get up and walk, is something you decide to do. It's controlled by your brain, and it's, relatively slow. A reflex, though, that's totally involuntary and crazy fast. The message takes that shortcut to the spinal cord, which makes the decision for you and sends a command right back out. And its number one job is to keep you safe.
And this diagram shows you that exact shortcut. It's called the reflex arc. Let's follow the path. So a receptor in your skin screams hot. That message travels along a sensory neuron straight to your spinal cord. In the spinal cord, it passes the message to a motor neuron, which then sends a signal directly to the muscle in your arm yelling contract, pull away. All of this happens before your brain even knows you're in pain. Pretty cool, huh?
Now, even with these shortcuts, the brain is still the big boss, the CEO of your body. Your forebrain is the main thinking hub. It handles all your senses and conscious decisions. Then you have the hindbrain, which takes care of other crucial stuff. The cerebellum, for instance, is what gives you the fine motor control and balance to ride a bike. And the medulla handles all the automatic things that keep you alive, like breathing and your heartbeat.
Okay, so that's Team Animal covered with their speedy nervous systems. But what about Team Plant? I mean, plants don't have nerves, they don't have muscles. So how in the world do they respond to anything? Well, they use a totally different playbook, a much slower strategy that's all based on chemicals.
You might think plants are slow, but some are surprisingly quick. Check out the touch-me-not plant. If you touch its leaves, they fold up right away. This isn't growth, it's a rapid response. The plant sends a kind of electrical chemical signal that basically tells the cells at the base of the leaves to dump their water fast, and that's what makes the leaves go limp and fold up. It's a really clever defense mechanism.
But for the most part, plant movement is all about growth, and we call these directional movements tropisms. This table breaks down the two most important ones. You've got phototropism, which is responding to light. The shoot grows towards the light to get as much energy as possible. And then there's geotropism, which is responding to gravity. The roots always grow down to find water, and the shoot always grows up away from gravity. It's a simple but brilliant system.
So what's the magic ingredient here?
It's a plant hormone called auxin. This stuff is made right at the tip of the shoot. Now, when light shines on the plant from one side, the auxin actually moves over to the shady side. This buildup of auxin tells the cells on the dark side to grow longer and faster than the cells on the sunny side, and that's what causes the entire stem to bend towards the light.
So clever.
Whew! Okay, we've covered a ton. Are you ready to put that new knowledge to the test? It's time for a little exam question power-up. This is where we make sure all that information is really sticking.
Okay, here's your first challenge. We've talked about both. What is the real, fundamental difference between a reflex, like pulling your hand away from something hot, and a regular action, like walking? I want you to actually pause this right here and see if you can jot down the main differences. Go on, give it a shot. Okay, if you're a little stuck, here's a hint for you. Try to focus on two big ideas. Which part of your nervous system is calling the shots, the brain or the spinal cord? And second, is it a choice you make or does it just happen? All right, you ready? Let's break it down. A reflex action is controlled by the spinal cord. It's involuntary. You don't choose to do it, and it's instantaneous. Walking, on the other hand, is controlled by the brain. It is a voluntary choice you make, and it's a much more deliberate, slower action. If you got those key ideas down, you are absolutely golden. Okay, round 2. This one is all about that tiny but super important gap. What exactly happens at the synapse that lets the message get from one neuron to the next? You know the drill. Hit pause and try to explain what's happening step by step. And if you need a little nudge, here's your hint. Remember, that electrical signal hits a dead end, a gap. It can't just jump. It has to change into something else to get across. What could that be? And the answer is chemicals. It's a chemical signal. So the electrical impulse arrives at the end of the first neuron. This causes it to release chemical messengers into the synapse. Those chemicals float across that tiny gap, and once they reach the next neuron, they trigger a brand new electrical impulse. It's that beautiful electrical to chemical to electrical handoff.
All right, we are in the home stretch now. To wrap things up, let's do a super quick, rapid-fire review of the most important words from this topic. Think of this as your last-minute, super concentrated cheat sheet for the exam.
Ready? Let's go. A neuron is your basic nerve cell. A synapse is that chemical gap between neurons. The reflex arc is the nerve pathway for a reflex. The cerebellum is the part of your brain for balance. Auxin is the plant hormone for growth, and a tropism is a plant's growth response to a stimulus. Got them? These are the big 6. Make sure you know them inside and out.
And I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. We've seen 2 totally different ways to handle control. The super fast electrical system in animals and the slow, steady chemical system in plants. Just take a second and imagine what life would be like if our responses were as slow as a plant's. It really puts into perspective just how amazing our own nervous system is, right? Thanks so much for tuning in.